Are you interested in the art and the craft and the magical principle of channeling? And would you be interested in being a channel yourself? Is this something you could even fathom or welcome into your existence? So, what I mean by channeling is someone who is able to welcome in an energy and speak and transmit their energy and their messages and even their speech. If you're interested in all of that, then you definitely want to hang out for this video. Welcome to the Charmed Life podcast. This is a live stream. That's why, if you watched the beginning, you saw me kind of stumble over a word and we kept going anyway. I honestly really love things like that. The things that we do that we mess up on, they're maybe just the perfect little precise thing that brings us into synchrony. So, welcome to this, the live broadcast for those of you who are here live, or if you're watching on replay. This promises to be a very enlightening and inspiring and exciting episode, as my guest is here to talk all about channeling. Now, I'm a channel myself as well. And with that in mind, I want to let you know that actually, if you are listening today, which is, what is today, November 30th of 2023, that you could actually come and participate, be in the audience of me channeling with live. See, I have this platform, this membership called Modern Mystic Life. And one of the things, which there are many benefits to being a member of Modern Mystic, is that I have live workshops once per month. And sometimes they are what we are doing today, which is I'm actually going to go into the channeled state and I'm going to be offering channeled messages for those who are live there. I have someone who's actually moderating, taking the questions because I stay in the channel the whole time. And it's really wonderful whether you are actually one who asks a question or not, which I've been in many channeling events with someone, for example, like Daryl Anka, who channels Bashar, and I never asked a question, but boy, did I receive so much. Because the magic of it is spirit coalesces all of our higher selves guides and messages that are coming through for one person, and they actually bless us all. And so this afternoon at 4:30 Pacific, if you join Modern Mystic, or you could also just schedule to drop in, which you can find the link there or on my website, there I'm referring to on the actual screen and in the chat, that you can join and be a part of that audience live. And it's really, really magical. So without further delay, I want to invite my very special guest, synchronistically, who is, I scheduled this workshop uh 2 months ago, and we scheduled this podcast also, I don't know, like a month, like I didn't line this up so that these two things would be happening on the same day. Once again, synchronicity, what a magical gift that we have as we are guided through our life. So, my guest is an intuitive channel, and her name is Stephanie Banks. And here she is. Welcome to the podcast, Stephanie.
Thank you, Tricia. I'm super excited for whatever unfolds between us.
Yeah, something magical, something maybe weird. Yeah, are you in for weird?
I hope weird. Yeah, I'm a big fan of weird.
Me too. Well, we have not had the I haven't had the privilege to get to know you yet. I've of course read a bit about you, but I would love to hear about your journey and the work that you're doing and how we are all channels. So wherever you want to start, let us get into the magic of you and your work.
Oh, great. So I'll start with what you ended with. We are all channels. I
Mhm.
totally believe this. The way that I channel is unique to me, but actually, channeling is not unique. We all have this as a birthright, and we can choose to hone it. It's our sixth sense. It comes through the place of intuition. We all are intuitive on some level. And so it's my greatest thrill and joy to channel and also to be with others who are channeling. And we are all channeling all the time, but people don't really know it. So art is channeling, music is channeling, dance is channeling. There's so many different forms of connecting to divine energy. And
Love
that's what
making.
channeling is.
Love making too,
Yes,
right? Yeah.
of course. Sometimes.
That's true. Sometimes it is not inspired.
That's right.
If you've been together a while. No, I'm sorry. I'm totally kidding.
Oh my gosh.
We asked for
But
weird.
yeah,
Yeah, sorry. Go
yeah,
ahead.
there's
Yeah.
so many beautiful ways to connect to spirit, which is us. I like to say that when I'm channeling, I'm not going outside of myself. I'm going to that still and beautifully connected place within.
Yeah.
And I started channeling out of necessity
Mm,
because my mother had dementia.
mm,
She was no longer able to communicate well verbally, which is, of course, traditional communication.
mm,
And even though I was a speech pathologist at the time and really understood communication and communication disorders, I wanted something more with my mom. I wanted to be able to understand her needs and my role with her and sort of what our souls came here to express and to experience. So I had a best friend at the time who was an intuitive channel. I say was because she's on the other side now and she
mm.
supports me in my channeling work. But that was my first exposure to it. And I asked her if she would please channel my mom's soul while my mom was still in body
Yeah.
and help me sort this out because I kept getting it wrong. We'd enter into these very distorted conversations that made no sense because that's what dementia is really all about. The pathways are breaking apart. It's hard to connect. And this friend showed me that I had agreed on a soul level to help clear the path for my mom so she could have whatever experience she needed to have throughout her dementia, throughout her end of life. And I found ways to support her that I would not have come to on my own if I hadn't been able to hear from that soul perspective. So when I saw what it did for my relationship with my own mother, I figured I have to learn how to do this for myself. And then eventually, I would love to offer it in some form or fashion to the world at large because
Yeah.
humanity needs to reconnect in this way. And it's healing and it's beautiful and it's powerful and it's joyful. And I'm all about it. So I got lots of training and practice, thousands of hours, and now I have a thriving business to channel for others and teach them how to do that for themselves as well.
Oh, what a beautiful story. Can I tell you the synchronicity of this too?
Yes.
I have, I'm going to obscure this person's identity. I have a client who has cognitive issues. And and so one of the things I, do, intuitive reading and I'm a channel but I'm also a hypnotherapist and a spiritual healer and counselor. And so in our sessions, the the way that the verbal communication is coming through, it's not aligning. So I actually just was with this person recently and I keep getting reminded by spirit. I'm like, well, I've lost track of this story. And they're like, get out of that linear speech part. And I was like, oh, that's right. And so I just sit back and the thing is, for in other situations, the way that we are languaging something is important. So it is something to be honored. But in the situation where that tool is diffuse, at least, then we have this other one. So I just sat back and I just let it come to me, in the energy. And the sessions are really beautiful. They work perfectly. So yeah, it's amazing, isn't it?
That gave me the chills
It's,
hearing
I
you
just can't
talk about
believe
that.
I can't believe the synchronicity of it that I'm working with this person right now. Yeah, it's
Yes.
amazing.
Yes. And something else I was thinking about literally today is that my best friend, who was the one who channeled for me and who first exposed me to what channeling was, she channeled, she passed of glioblastoma, which is a brain cancer, and it's fast moving. And she was still channeling for people almost up until her last breath.
Wow.
And I remember the clients would come to her house, they would know that she had this going on. It would interrupt her speech and sometimes her verbal expression and clarity, but it didn't matter because what was coming through was so beautiful and so loving and of the highest vibration that those people received exactly what they needed from her, even if her speech wasn't the same, even if her access to language wasn't perfectly clear as it used to be. So this is what we don't yet know as humans because we are so heavily reliant upon traditional verbal communication. But there's many ways to communicate, and heart-based communication is one of the best as far as I'm concerned.
And this is begging and I see we have really great question from Brad. Brad, hang on. I definitely want to get to that in a minute because you've done, thank you for contributing. But it does bring to mind, like light language and other kinds of sound healing, where we are using the voice, but there's so much more going on or even when we're speaking, this is something. I have a mind body psychology degree, and we learn about the fact that even in counseling, even though we are using language in a specific way, and but it has to do with other things. It has to do with the transmissions of energy that are coming through.
Mhm.
And it may be coming through in the prosody of your speech, which means like the melody of speech. Oh, you know this because you're a speech pathologist. you're like, you're like, she used the word prosody. You probably thought that, right? Like, yeah. The prosody of your speech, the harmonics of how your vocalizing is coming through, toning and light language. And so in some some of the channeling or some of the sessions I do attunement by channeling light language or just tones,
Mhm.
and it's very powerful, and it feels really big, like big energy as it comes through me, and people really deeply receive it. And I've heard people say like, well, with light language, um, what does it mean in language? I'm like, well, the point of it is to take the wheels off of it and like not
Mhm.
have a structure to language so that those pure transmissions can come through in all of that different unstructured articulation. Are you into light language at all? Do you do that?
I probably don't know as much about it as you do, but
It's
yes,
good
I'm
to
into
know.
everything. Any type of communication
Mhm.
is I'm game for. And we also have a lot of signals that we send out that have nothing to do with what we're saying, but they give a lot of important information. We have facial expression, we have
Mhm.
body language, we have the energetic field that's emanating from us. So we can tell a lot from and about a person without saying anything, just by observing, just by being present to what's there. We can also pick up on dissonance.
Yes.
So you ask someone, how are you doing? They're like, I'm doing great, and they're not great. Even though we're trying to mask to whatever level we feel like we need to, there are signals we are sending out, communication signals all the time in many different ways.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's interesting. There's this person that I know who is older, so she came up in a different generation than, like a previous one, where women had a different conditioning. I mean, we still have conditioning, how we are put into boxes and everything. But there's something so interesting about her is because when she smiles, and I say this lovingly, when she smiles, it's like it looks like a fake smile, and yet the layer right button is that she's genuine because she was like
Mm.
trained to smile always because women need and girls need to be sweet. And I'm like, "Oh, it's so interesting that there's an illusion, but
Hmm.
it's genuine beneath it." And it just makes me it makes me feel for her so much. And again, I'm not I hope this doesn't come off across as judgment. This is someone who's in my family and I love her dearly, dearly. So, it's
Yeah.
really interesting, right? The
Yeah.
complexity of everything that we're communicating.
Yes. And when we pick up on it, it's something to be aware of and curious about. We don't have to judge it or make a
Yeah.
big deal out of it. But yeah, and you can tell it's like, I think it's when a smile doesn't reach the person's eyes, that's when it,
Yeah.
it has a little bit of a different feel,
Yes.
because when it's a warm, genuine smile, the whole face really lights up.
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't look like it looks like there's no effort. It looks like you can't
Yeah.
help it in a
Yes.
way. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so there's that kind of complexity. And then if you then it will come into a full blossom of a smile, or she'll laugh, and
Mhm.
then then it brightens up. And so that's part of it too, because again, I know her really well. So I
Yeah.
can see when it's all the way there and when it's like I need to try to be there. Even
Mhm.
if she is there.
Mhm.
It's so we're such interesting beings, aren't we?
Yes.
And channeling
Yes.
is one of the things that we do. I want to put on the screen here Brad's question, which is, what about
Mm.
people who say they are channeling certain beings? How can you determine if that is the actual being that's communicating?
Mm.
Would you like
I
to
would say good luck proving that.
proof? What is proof? What is proof? But yeah.
Yeah, I am a big fan of the work of the Institute of Noetic Sciences.
Mhm.
That is an institute in Petaluma, California, that is actually doing research on channeling.
Mm.
And one of its key researchers has written a book called The Science of Channeling. It's a
Mhm.
wonderful book. We don't have as much research on channeling as we need, but we do have more than what one might think.
Mhm.
So it's a real thing. Channeling is a real thing. They have proven how, a lot of how it works. They can study brainwaves, they can study all sorts of things that they have studied with um, sort of hooking channelers up to different instrumentation to study these things. In terms of validating the actual energy or entity that a person is channeling from, I don't know of anything
Right.
that we have that can prove or disprove that.
It's not really
So
possible to, I mean,
no, I've
yeah.
not to my knowledge. But here's what we do have. Every last one of us, we have our bodies
Mhm.
that will tell us if something is resonating.
Mhm.
And we have our hearts, the most intelligent organ, arguably, in my book, even more so than the brain. Read about the heart, go to Heart Math Institute and learn
Mhm.
about this incredible, intelligent organ of the heart. And so if you're getting a reading with someone and you feel at odds with it, or there's some dissonance there, or you're not connecting, you can trust that you're not connecting.
Mhm.
You don't have to make a blanket statement like, well, that's not the being they're actually channeling, because who knows? But all that really matters is what resonates with you. You can trust what resonates with you. And a lot of us have been trained out of trusting ourselves. So come back home, come back to
Mm.
yourself. Your spirit knows, your soul knows, your body will never lie about what is for you, what resonates with you, what belongs in your field or in your belief system. So
Mhm.
that's what I would say. What do you think, Tricia?
Well, one place I would start to answer this question is that I've heard a statistic that we are, if when we're speaking verbally to one another, we are fortunate. We would be on a very high percentage if, for example, I understood 80% of what you were intending to communicate to me through your verbal language. So there's that, first of all. I mean, if I go and tell this conversation to someone later and say, Stephanie said this, you know what I mean? I could get it wrong. And there's just how I'm interpreting it, how I'm receiving it, all of our filters of our physical filters as well as our energy. It's making it something for ourselves. So that's one thing to keep in mind, that nothing is precise or perfect. It's all a transmission and we're transducing energy and moving it around. Second of all, I want to go to the place for my own personal ethics and what I encourage the students that I teach to channel, I like to keep boundaries around um, asserting and making public that you're channeling a being that is currently related to someone or who is living, because it's just rude. You know what I mean? Like, for example, and I don't mean to, because I can't even think of anyone. I don't follow anyone who's doing this. But if someone were up on YouTube and saying, I'm going to channel Robin Williams, and Robin Williams' children and wife are still
Mhm,
here, how would that feel?
mhm.
If you're someone who was a stranger to you, to Stephanie, and said, I'm channeling Stephanie's mom, how would that feel to you? That wouldn't feel great. And they may, again, just because of their interpretation, misinterpret things. So I'm just thinking on the human level, let's keep some boundaries around it to where we could be ethical and responsible and considerate of others. Now, I know famous people, it seems like we have access to them because they're famous, but they still have loved ones and they're still human in all of those ways. So that's one thing and so I like to encourage us to, if we're channeling individual beings, they are either archetypal spiritual beings such as angels or masters, or maybe really, really old, that in our timescape, so that we aren't, interfering with how people are still experiencing that being. That's something somewhere I would be too. So in that case, of course, how could I prove that I'm channeling Archangel Michael or Saint Germain? Does it mean that we can't connect with beings who are honestly like living? We can, as you said with your mother, but your friend had direct invitation to do it.
That's right.
So to
That's right.
you, there was proof isn't really the right word, but there was resonance, there was benefit, there was relevance and help in that. So we would have a very sacred space around that if we were to be that's my perspective.
Yeah, yeah, and I don't disagree with that. My channeling work actually is mostly channeling those that are here on the planet. And I do not do this in a public YouTube, let me channel so and so's mother for
Ye
all to see.
Yeah,
It
it's
is in the
private, it's
sacred,
sacred.
yeah, it's
Mhm.
in the sacred context of a private session
Yes,
where
yes.
the person is specifically requesting, I want to hear from the soul of my child. What do they need from me? I want to
I do
hear
that.
from,
So, yeah,
yeah,
I'm definitely not I'm saying the thing that I'm yeah. The thing where
yeah,
we don't have an
yeah,
invitation. I mean, I'm honestly I teach the people who do psychic readings, intuitive readings, we need an invitation,
yes,
because otherwise
absolutely.
we're just barging into someone's home, which is their energy field. Anyway, sorry, go
Yes.
ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, and a soul will tell me if they don't want to come through. They
Mhm.
just
Yeah,
won't come through.
yeah.
And then I will just request someone on their behalf, so a spirit guide or an ancestor sometimes or something like that. But yeah, there's so much beautiful healing that can happen when we go to that fifth dimensional unity consciousness and hear what we aren't so present to in our busy and left brain logical oriented lives. That's where there's so much space here for transformation, I think, through the channeling realm.
Yes, right. Well, thank you for sharing that. Let's see, what else does Brad say? He has another question. There's many people that say they are communicating with Ashtar command, which is genuine. Well, Ashtar command, that's I mean, that's an archetype, or maybe it's some interdimensional being. So I think Brad's saying, is it genuine? I think we'll defer back or repeat, call back
Mhm.
Stephanie's comment. Does it feel authentic and helpful and relevant?
Mhm.
And I want to also say ecological or unifying. It's not harming
Mhm.
anyone and it feels good to you. What do you think, Stephanie?
Yeah, well, I'm going with that for 500.
And Brad says, very complex issue. Yes, but humans aren't we? Aren't we very
Yeah,
complex?
yeah.
Yeah. So tell us about you. So you do one-on-one sessions. Tell us about how
Mhm.
people actually, and you also teach. I would love to hear specifically how your work and how people work with you.
Yeah, most of my work is one-on-one sessions, private sessions that people schedule, and they can bring any question that they have to the dynamic.
Mhm.
In fact, the way I do channeling is based on request instead of someone saying just channel whoever's here for me. That's not actually how I work best. I'm a big fan of specificity. I trust that my client's heart knows what will be most useful for us to tune into. And I have questions I can ask them to help them get to that place, and then we find what will be useful, who we should tune into. A lot of times it's their own guidance system, sometimes it's their higher
For
self.
yourself, yeah.
It's so helpful to hear from your own soul, right? I mean, unless you're in the practice of speaking to it regularly, and most people are not, or they are speaking to their higher self but not trusting what's coming through or second guessing, and that's a learned behavior, that's a conditioned thing we're all exposed to. So that's how, my sessions really meander. I also channel animals. So
Mm-hmm.
much fun. I channel trees. I channel
Mm-hmm.
Gaia. She's always messages from Mother Earth to support us in supporting her because we are of her.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's fun. There's always something new and different and joyful. As I mentioned, I'm from the context of fifth dimensional consciousness, which is what I'm channeling from. So I am assured that all the messages are of the highest living vibration. I know there is some fear around whether heaviness or darkness will come through. I keep my field so high that that is not an option. If we do that, if we are devoted to our own energetic hygiene, then the other stuff will bounce off. And of
Yeah.
course, if we limit social media, that's
as
also
as we
very
broadcast
essential.
on social media.
Yes, exactly, exactly.
No, absolutely, because
So,
it's static. It's
mhm,
crud. It's like flowing swamp water
that's
into
right.
your drinking water.
That's
Absolutely.
right. And we absorb it, even if we think we're just glancing at it. No, it's actually coming through.
Yeah.
And I was listening to a podcast earlier today, and the people were talking about how when they go on social media, they literally physically brace themselves.
Oh, yeah.
And I have felt that way too, because we know what's the vitriol that is
Mhm.
going on towards each other. We've come very far from this harmonious, supportive interaction that we are meant to, I believe, have with one another. So limit that or eliminate that
Mhm.
if you can. Coming back to our true nature, coming back to the natural world, coming back to our care and our love for each other, that's where transformation is going to be possible. And we are here for a great rebirth, I believe.
Mm.
So,
Mhm.
and then in terms of my teaching, I teach from the place of joy. There's a lot of dancing in my workshops because we have to shake off energy that sticks to us. And we have to stop taking ourselves so seriously. I believe, I mean, spirit for me is pure joy and love. And if I'm feeling anything other than that, that's not spirit to me. So arranging and accessing and creating that resonance of high vibrational energy, that's where we can meet our guides and our higher self and our spirit team and our ancestors and really understand more of what's true for us and receive the type of guidance and insight and inspiration that will be useful to us.
Mm. Do you know about human design? Do you know your human design?
Yeah, a little bit. I don't remember. I
Okay.
have it written in my journal somewhere, but I don't remember.
I'm so curious, and if you don't mind, I would love to look up your chart. We don't have to do it now, but maybe
Yeah.
afterward, because I'm so curious because you do channel multi-dimensional, all of the different,
Mhm.
and I do as well. And I associate that with a certain aspect of the chart, which everyone has, you know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like everyone has access to absolutely everything in themselves. But I'm just curious if that occurred because of that. It's gate 19, if you guys are wondering. I'm wondering if she has gate 19
Oh,
defined in her chart.
now I'm wondering too. Yes.
Well, you could put in the private chat if you want between you and me, your birth time and city and everything. But we can
Okay.
just do it afterward if you like. Go
Okay.
ahead if you like,
Okay.
and we can look at it while we're on the live. And I will just also mention or refer to what Brad is talking about, where he said referring to the Ashtar command. Did you put it in there? Okay, great.
I did.
Ashtar command that it is. I need your city as well, please.
Okay.
Yeah. The Ashtar command is, yeah, like the Galactic Federation and all of that, but still, and they're called extraterrestrial physical beings, but at the same time, still we don't have physical access to them. So for us, from our perspective, because I said it's more like you would might say that it is an archetype, since we don't have any way to connect with them physically and get their standing here physically. So to us, they are archetypal.
Mhm.
That's what I meant by that. But there isn't any way to prove it because we don't have any. I mean, if we're talking about proof, then we're requiring physical presence of something,
Mhm.
So, but proof is not as important as is what Stephanie said, resonance.
Mhm.
And so, Stephanie, while I'm putting in your birth information, would you mind telling us? You assert, and I agree, of course, that we are all channels.
Mhm.
And what kind do we need any kind of, because I'm just going to ask a question people always ask, special gift for channeling?
Well, we already have it. So, as I mentioned, I believe it's a birthright. We all, as children, if we are given opportunities and sufficient resources, we're connected constantly. So it's the slow disconnecting through conditioning, social conditioning, societal conditioning, familial conditioning, sometimes even religious conditioning, that separates us from our natural state as children of wonder and interconnectivity with all things and really interbeing. So I remember, I don't know if you did the same, Tricia, but I used to have these wonderful relationships with all of my stuffed animals on my
I did
bed.
too. Oh my gosh, it actually no, but first of all, I also need your birth time. I have
Okay.
the reason I'm getting so excited while you put that in there is because so I'm writing a book on animal communication, and I have a whole, like, half of a chapter on that.
Yeah.
On the fact that I had, because they became egregores, not egregores, they became thought forms. There were actually
Mm.
entities that began to inhabit them. My guides inhabited them, and they became full spirited personalities.
Yes.
Yes, right.
I love it. I love the way you just described it. You're gonna be astonished at my birth time and date and
I
how
know, I
they
see
line
that,
up.
that's
Yeah.
so magical.
So magical. Yes, and so I would some might say, "Oh, that's just your
Oh, the just
imagination
whatever
or you're
follows just
making
is always a
that."
problem, right?
Yeah. But actually, as children, we have a very rich, multidimensional life.
Mhm.
And if we have families or even just one person in our life that is willing to nurture that, encourage that, support that, listen to that, take an interest in that, then that can grow. And then we don't have these, what I see very often are adults who have been craving that aspect of themselves for a long time, but feel like they have had to shelve it, box it up, put it away because it was not acceptable, or even there was fear around it. They were told that that was a dangerous realm to be communicating with Grandpa Harry on the other side, even though he comes to visit that child all the time and that child can see them and speak to them and communicate. So you don't need anything special to be able to channel, but to be able to channel well with high clarity, you need to devote yourself to your energetic hygiene. Otherwise, you are going to attract some sticky stuff, and
Mhm.
it's not fun to be in the sticky energy.
And, you're attracting that we're attracting that in real life then too, and IRL, we're in physical life. That's the truth. But it's
Yeah.
easier in spirit to stay clearer and cleaner of that because we don't have to drag our bodies around to it. We can bop right out of it.
That's true. And spirit presents as clear. So it's
Mhm.
not gonna, it's not gonna mask itself and trick you into
Yeah.
something. But yes, and I think practice, for me to be the clear channel that I am, it's been thousands of
Mhm.
hours. It's been years
Mhm.
before I felt even comfortable saying, okay, maybe I'll channel for someone other than a family member or a friend, and building of that confidence. So it's important to stay very humble and understand that it's not a right wrong thing. It's
Yeah.
not, that's a trapping of the mind. But really we're attuning to something that is otherworldly, and so we got to create a lot of space for that,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of ways to listen for that.
It's just really amazing how, online we are with one another. Because all the things you're saying, I'm laughing because it's like the kind of same stuff I teach. And I have your chart, and you do have gate 19. And I'll tell you why that's significant in what we're talking about here is because gate 19 is, it is the genetic predisposition, whichever, again, everyone has access to it, but you have an especial predisposition or prescience for synesthesia.
Mm,
And synesthesia in the physical sense of physical sensing is that you're like, for example, a person when they taste, they might see or experience a color with that taste, for
mm,
example, or the senses kind of overlap and refer to one another. And this also occurs in the psychic senses as well. And I But then the other piece is because the gate 19 has a very profound connection to not just the mammal realm, the whole mammal realm, but all of the realms. It's like really capable. If you think about synesthesia as senses overlapping and just being in different inputs, outputs. And so it's like that with the dimensions too. And so it's like just easy for you to tune the radio dial, which is how I describe it. Do you describe it that way?
I
But
love it. Tell me more. Yes.
or is that how it feels to you? I might say, even if you haven't thought about that metaphor,
Yeah.
it's like, oh, okay, so we're just going to tune to, an animal who, because I, teach animal communication. Okay, I'm going to connect with a dog who's living. Oh, okay, so this dog is past. That's a slightly different frequency. And it's just the tuning, it's just the moving to that space, the archangel realm or past loved ones and ancestors, which is
Yes.
even deeper into a different frequency than just a more immediate past loved one. And it seems that in my experience, people with gate 19 have more of an inclination for their channeling to just naturally flow that way. Yeah, I'll
Mm,
channel a tree. It's not to say that other people can't or don't or won't. It's just that maybe other people have more of the, preference to be in one kind of area.
mhm.
Whereas seems gate 19 people are like, oh yeah, I'll channel a tree or a dog or a cat or a stone or grandma.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Yes.
isn't
Yeah.
that
That
interesting that
that
I could
resonates.
Mhm.
I'm going to say that is true, and there's no way to prove it.
That's you said it. You're the proof. You said it.
That's right.
And how about with that piece of being a synesthete? Do you notice, like, sometimes, like, I do notice, I use my own example. I mean, I can feel the color blue, or I taste a
Mhm.
certain color with something, or when I hear a tone, maybe you see a picture or something like that. Do you kind of
I do
do
get
that?
a lot of imagery,
Hmm.
definitely, and there are certain words that evoke imagery, and sometimes even memories that I can't recall because I'm not even sure they're memories from this lifetime, but other
Mm.
moments, perhaps other lifetimes.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's one of the things that I love about channeling, or at least in the way that I do, is that there isn't, I really don't think there's anything that I can't channel. There are
Yeah.
things I won't.
Sure. Yeah.
But there, it's, it's really wide open. If
Hmm.
I want to tune into something, I can connect to and receive energy impulses, information, and guidance from whatever source
Yeah.
is there. And that feels safe and good and high vibrational to me.
Yeah.
So discernment is very important in this
Mhm.
work, 100%, because you can easily get, go for a journey that maybe you don't you don't wish to go for. But discerning from which energies you do want to tune into, and everything always for the purpose of serving the highest good is
Mhm.
essential. And
For
creating the
everyone. Yeah.
absolutely
Hmm. Yeah.
for all. Yep.
Mhm. Yeah, I know you mean that. I just wanted to make sure
Yeah.
I said it. We
Yeah.
said it for everyone too. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Brad's asking another question that I was planning to ask you. So, do you feel mediumship is different than channeling? And that is a common question. How is mediumship or other psychic reading and everything and channeling, how are they differentiated or not?
Well, there's different people define these in different ways. And so the way that I define them is not necessarily the right way. But mediumship to me is connecting to those on the other side, the souls who are on the other side, and channeling is connecting to any soul, that. So you are channeling the higher self of someone who's talking to me right now, and or to an animal being who's here on the planet. That's how I distinguish between them. And then for psychic definition, it's sort of reading. Well, I would like to hear your perspective on it. Yeah. Well, how do you distinguish between?
Well, I think of mediumship as like you're getting on the phone with someone. And so I'm like on the phone with someone and I'm like, okay, Stephanie, he said this. And then what else? Okay. So then he said this, this, and this.
Okay.
Okay. What? Okay. Then he said this, as opposed to, letting it, then just being able to let that, voice come I get out of the way. That's how I kind of see
Right.
it. That's what I think. And it's funny sometimes when I'm either teaching or reading or something like that, or counseling, and I'll be like, I'll go, okay, what? Okay, yeah, and then I'll blah blah blah, and I'll be like, oh, you know what? I'm just gonna get out of the way and I'll let them just say it because I'm
Mhm,
slowing
mhm,
down the process. And
mhm,
in teaching people mediumship or even intuitive readings, it just sometimes channeling seems to start flying in. You know what I mean?
mhm,
Like
mhm,
that started happening to me when I was practicing and opening up mediumship, and I asked my mediumship teacher, I was like, it seems like I'm starting to channel them, is and I asked her, like, is that okay? Because that's where I was
mhm,
still.
mhm,
And she's like, yeah, of course we channel, it just happens easily and naturally in the process. So that's one way that I look at it. It's like cutting out the middleman, which is me. And with psychic, generally, as a general, it's like tapping into energy. And so I could be picking up on anything. Yeah, it could be higher dimensional, more beneficial, or it could be lower. Like you
mhm,
can look into things and see things that are unsavory, and
mhm,
that's just a
mhm.
general fabric of the psychic field. Psychic really just means energy, right? It's the collection of all energy stuff. So continue then. What were you going to say about psychic
No,
readings?
that's good. I think it's interesting because we all do have a different perspective on these
Mhm.
definitions, and it sort of depends on who our teachers were, how they defined it, and also just what feels resonant for us. And
Mhm.
I think of psychic in terms of reading some, futuristically,
Oh,
oftentimes.
okay. Yeah, yeah.
Um,
I don't even bother with that because
oh no,
no.
I don't want any part of that.
Yeah.
Only because I feel like it can influences someone's free
Mhm.
will, and that's not. I don't know. To me, that's not my role, and I do
Mhm.
not want the responsibility for that. I trust people to know to
Sure.
choose what is right for them at the moment. And also, I have seen it cause chaos,
Mhm.
and fear and confusion.
Mhm.
So any work can do that, of course. Any work that's not done with high levels of discernment and high vibrational frequency
Mhm.
can create chaos and confusion. So it's a big responsibility, to do this for others.
Mhm. Yeah. It's interesting. This might be, insofar as it being a responsibility and being safe and all of that. I mentioned I'm a hypnotherapist, and one time I was on a telehealth call with my doctor, and they ask, "What do you do for a living?" And so I say hypnotherapist. I feel like it's the easiest, the fastest one to move past. The reason I have to say hypnotherapist because I'm not a licensed marriage family therapist. That would be but I really, all they need to know is that I'm not like driving a freight or something, like they
Yeah.
need to know what my lifestyle is like around but of course, even that is like makes them go, oh. So I told her hypnotherapist, which is one of the things that I do. And my doctor said, "Oh, that's interesting." She said, "Is that safe?" My doctor, it was her first question. So I paused, and this is what I said to her. And this is like, hypnotherapy, you can put channeling in there. Is that safe? And I said, "Well, let me ask you a question. Is it safe to cut people open?" Depends, doesn't it? It really, really depends. Is it a huge responsibility? Yeah, it's a huge responsibility.
Yeah.
And so that's what I was comparing, especially I am a qualified hypnotherapist with the right skills and intention and tools and all of the things. And so uh, it's sometimes really, really necessary to cut people open, isn't it?
Yes. That's funny. I love that story because I too will choose from among any of my many different careers that I have had. And depending on who's asking what I'm doing, I'll do a quick check and think, are they open? If they're
That's
not,
right.
yeah.
Yeah.
If they're
Hmm.
not open, then I'm a speech therapist,
Hmm.
or I'm a lactation consultant, or I'm a doula, all things that I have done. If I sense that there is some openness, well, then of course I'm an intuitive channel, and that sparks another question, what's that? And then we can have an interesting conversation.
Yeah.
And I have also found myself in a courtroom as a potential selected juror, and
I'm a psychic.
I actually have had to say that only because when I walked in and I saw the defendant, and
Mhm.
I saw that I had
It was so
understanding.
me too.
Yes.
I literally did that too. I was there, and this person was charged with many murders.
Mm,
And I was sitting, and I wasn't trying to, like, I was actually trying to, it was just so palpable, and I was like, "Oh, no." And it was like this just huge, like, dark,
mhm,
big thing. And it was funny because I was looking at the person's face, and it was expressionless. So it wasn't
mhm,
because of the sensory
mhm.
acuity, the physical sensory acuity. And I was like, I can't do this. Well, maybe because it's unethical, because I'm seeing things, sure, that
Yeah,
they can't. And also I couldn't put myself through it. And
right.
so I said it very plainly, "I'm a psychic." And they're like,
Exactly. They almost escort you out immediately. Yes.
yeah, so that's so funny. We have so many similar stories. All right, so I have a big question for you.
Mhm.
How will channeling, how I'm going to say it that way, how will channeling, and let's say as many people as possible or individuals activating channeling, how will it help humanity and our relationship with our beautiful planet?
Mm. Well, if you can imagine for a moment, just everyone listening, if you just imagine for a moment, what if you trusted yourself,
Mm.
your choices, your beliefs, your thoughts, even questioning your beliefs and bringing in new ones? What if you moved around on this planet and in your relationships with such a deep sense of worthiness, of love, and self trust? That would change everything about how you treat yourself, about how you communicate with others, about how you relate to more than human life forms. And that's actually the planet that I see for us. That's what my vision is, that I hold for us, is us living in interconnectivity and interbeing and love with all species for all time. We cannot protect what we don't love, what we don't know, what we don't understand. And I am a big, big fan of all life. Even the bugs I love. I mean, the trees I adore, the flowers, the animals, there's no life form that I'm not madly in love with. And part of that I do attribute to channeling because it allows me to be in a deeper um, connection and understanding and relationship to life. And life comes from source, and source is love. And so it's all coming back to this place of love. So if we had humans that were in love with themselves and saw that loving energy in the reflection with others, then we would have a vastly different experience on the planet right now. And we are moving in that direction. We do have some mountains to climb in terms of that, but I know that it's possible because I have seen relationships be transformed through messages that have come through to support people having strife or discord or disconnect, and that's what's possible for our planet. We do have the ability to come back into harmony and care for each other and for all life. And there are many of us who are already in the pursuit of that, and we are linking up and magnetizing to more and more, creating this extended family, if you will, of those who are willing to roll up our sleeves and do the work and stand up for what's right and defend those who need defending. It's endless work, but we're here for that.
Mm, thank you for that. Amen. I agree. And I claim it with you. I think what's key here, though, is that it does need to be about finding the way that we are loving
Mhm.
one and loving ourselves and loving one another, because the blame and shame game isn't getting us far enough. And that doesn't mean that we condone other people's actions, but we need to lovingly interrupt. Somehow we need a, where things need to be interrupted, disrupted, and changed and shifted needs to be done with love and understanding. If we try to understand someone else, then maybe we can help them to understand something else as well. You know, it has to be that heart to heart connection and not blame, shame, and combat and
Mhm.
competition, of course, as well. So, channeling affords that complete first self love in order for that frequency to be high, for that channel to be clear, as you're saying.
Yeah.
And so, I think it's the way, isn't it?
Yeah, one of my dear clients and really people who I most admire on the planet right now, Lynn Twist, she says, we all have a part to play in the regeneration of the planet. It's not a big part and it's not a small part, it's our part.
Yeah.
So we don't have to take on the ills of the world. But
Mhm.
I know what breaks my heart, and I'm going to serve into that, into leaving that in a better place, hopefully by the time I exit this physicality. So you all know what breaks your heart, and that breaks your heart for a reason. It's part of what your soul is called here to serve into the love.
Mm.
So follow that, do that. There's endless ways to do that.
Thank you for that. Well, that's actually a really beautiful invitation. What breaks your heart to go that
Mhm.
way?
Mhm. Yeah.
Yes, yes. Now, I want to just leave space. This isn't a request, but do you like to channel in, like in a forum like this to offer a channeled message, or is that something you reserve for your one-on-one sessions in case that's something I didn't ask you in advance if you wanted to do that. So I wanted to see
Yeah.
if that's something you like to do.
If I know in advance that it's going to be part of it, I will prepare for it, but I have not.
Okay,
Mhm.
then. Yeah, I should have. I intend to ask people that in advance if they have a certain gift that they would like to
Mhm.
exhibit. But so good, good, good. Okay, good to know. And so, any final things that you would like to share with everyone? Of course, we have your information in the show notes. Your website is Soul Insight, and your Instagram handle is the same, right? At Soul
Mhm.
Insight. Yes, you have your one-on-one sessions and courses and workshops. Is that right? Anything else
Yes.
you'd like to share?
No, I feel like we've been comprehensive here.
All right, and a little weird. You know what? That's something to mention is that spirit is hilarious,
Oh,
right?
yes. Yes. Yes, exactly. That's why we can't take ourselves too seriously because we're going to miss all the lusciousness of the humor that spirit operates from.
Yeah.
And yes, exactly.
And with my guides, speaking of disrupting, some kind of messed up pattern, my guides
Mhm.
usually do it with me in a way that's like, seriously,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like they make me laugh about how dumb I'm being. I love it.
Yes. Yes, I appreciate that so much too. I mean, who doesn't love laughter and humor?
Yeah, the levity. Well, everyone, Stephanie Banks, definitely be sure to check out, follow her, check out all of her offers and her website, book a session with her, learn channeling from her. Thank you so much for gracing us with your light on the podcast today.
Thank you so much, Tricia. It was a great time.
My fellow Gate 19
Yes.
possessor, my fellow synesthete. Really wonderful to chat. And I hope to do it again sometime soon.
Yeah, me too.
Well, everyone, that is oh, look what I left on my face. That is Stephanie Banks. This is live produced and live. Let me take that off my face. I'm actually upgrading this podcast and the live stream of it. Stay tuned because we're going to have some really exciting live production of this, and we're going to have some spiritual news, if you will. That's some of the way that we're going to be having additional shows live streamed, and you'll find it on the podcast as well, the audio podcast. So check out my Charmed Life with Tricia Carr podcast any way that you get your podcasts. And just a reminder that if you happen to be on today, which we still have quite a few of you, hello, hello, I am offering a workshop today in my Modern Mystic subscription. It's a very low cost monthly subscription of $11 where we have live workshops. Today, I will be doing Archangel Gabriel channeling, and that is for those who are present, can ask a question, and I will be in the channel the whole time. We also do a monthly live meditation, and you also get exclusive live content text to you right into your SMS text messenger so that you can listen on your way to work, on your while you're doing dishes, while you're doing, on your walk or whatever it is. It's awesome. And then, of course, I have a lot of other on demand programs like my animal communication and multidimensional mediumship. And actually, coming up very soon, I will be allowing on demand my fairies and nature elementals program. Now, that is what we have for you for this podcast. Stay tuned because we will be live broadcasting again very soon. And of course, check out the podcast, Instagram, all of the things. Thanks for tuning in. I love you, whoever you are.